Hey everyone, great to connect with you again today. I hope that you're having a wonderful week and that you're sensing God's grace in every area of your life. Here are a few things happening in the life of our church. Tonight at 6:30, Dr. Judy Congdon will present a meditation of organ music from the compositions of Johann Sebastian Bach. We appreciate Judy's ministry each Sunday and invite you to join us tonight for her ministry as well. This program will be streamed through the regular streaming channels. If you're interested in meeting with a small group or you'd like to know more about being in a small group, contact Pastor Paul Shea at hwchurch.org. We're hoping to initiate some small groups right away. And this Sunday, we'll be streaming our worship service again at 10 a.m. Pastor Cindy will be preaching from Deuteronomy 8, leading us to think about living in the wilderness. The Sunday service may be accessed through the regular streaming channels. And youth group meets again this Sunday in the gym with mass and social distancing. Junior high 3 to 4, senior high 5 to 6. A couple of weeks ago, Cindy and I were driving on 305 coming back from Olean. It had snowed some that morning, but it didn't seem that bad. All of a sudden, without warning, our car started to slide on the road. We spun left and then back right and then left again and back right again until eventually we were able to straighten ourselves out. It's one of those moments when you realize after it's done how dangerous it really was. All the while we were turning and spinning, crossing into the opposite lane, not one car came our direction, and all the people behind us were able to slow down and give us room to regain traction. It was one of those moments in which we felt horror at what might have happened and gratitude that it didn't. That incident reminded me of a similar situation maybe 12 or so years ago. We were just this side of Rushford on 243 when a deer ran out in front of us, and instinctively I swerved to miss it, which I did, but my swerving sent us into a tailspin. We ended up coming to rest on the shoulder of the road only because a guardrail prevented us from falling into the ditch below us. Again, we were struck by what could have been, and we're grateful that we were okay. You might be wondering about my driving abilities, but that discussion will have to wait for another time. My point is that the guardrail protected us. We were very grateful for that guardrail. I've often thought about the guardrails God puts into our lives and our world. Sometimes we don't like them. When God tells us that to follow Him means that we limit what we say to each other and how we say it. That everything we have is actually His. That there are right and wrong ways to express our sexuality, that we use our authority as a means of embracing vulnerability. All these ways, it feels like God is impinging on our freedom. And the truth is this: that's exactly what He's doing. To follow Jesus is to give up our rights to do whatever we want to do. But instead of viewing these limitations as something negative, we need to see them as guardrails that are in place for our protection. We need to understand that none of God's commands or instructions, none of His demands or laws are arbitrary. Everything He commands is for our good, to lead us to a life of joy, of peace, of flourishing in Him. That's why the writer of Psalm 119 can pen 176 verses in praise and thanksgiving for God's law. The writer goes on and on about the joy and blessing of God's commands. Honestly, it's taken me a while to understand this mindset. But when I see the law as guardrails, I begin to grasp the mind and attitude and spirit of the writer. All that God calls us to is because He loves us, and because He wants us to experience abundant life in surrender and obedience to Him and His ways. I'm still on the journey. I suspect you are too. My prayer for me and for you is that the Spirit will open our eyes to see this truth, that the Spirit will give us a passion to embrace this truth, that the Spirit will fill us with joy as we live out this truth. Father, thank you, not only for your word, but for the commands of your word. Open our eyes to see them as you intended them, as a means to protect us and to love us, and to lead us to flourishing with you. Amen. Thanks again for joining me. Have a wonderful day.